In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP. Hey, Gumpers.
Hola, bon dia, Algria Munson here from expatsportugal.com with the Good Morning Portugal show, live stream and podcast. Hola, bon dia, tudo bem? I want to say to you this morning, como estás? Do let me know in the comments. Yes, let's speak a bit of Portuguese this morning. How's it going with your Portuguese? Mrs. M was doing her language class yesterday online, and very interesting it was too. I'm more the conversational kind, chucking myself in a deep end in the cafe. Mrs. M likes a structured a format approach to learning, and she's doing very well. What's your favorite approach? How are you doing? I know Deagle has been doing 3,000 consistent and constant days of learning Portuguese, doing a great job. How's it going? I suppose it's not that easy getting the chance to engage with people and speak Portuguese in Belfast. Anyway, let's try it at the dentist, shall we, this morning, Deagle? Bon dia, Carl and Gumpers, heading to dentist at 9 this morning. So paying to be in pain and stop pain. Yes, never thought of it like that. Morning, Deagle. And we have lots of something Portugal dreams of. Rain going to be a very wet week in Belfast expected. 4 inches by Sunday. And who doesn't like 4 inches by Sunday first thing in the morning? Thank you for that, Deagle. And you're right. I was sent a number of articles. Thank you, Newshound Phil, for sending me some great tips of Portuguese-related news, Portugal-related news. One of them has the headline that Portugal must get used to using less water. I suspect that's the same all around the world, isn't it? But what are we doing about that? One thing we're doing is on the gardening Q&A, which was great last night, a little bit different. Unfortunately, Lee McGrady, head gardener, was very busy on a job, and of course, he has to put earning a crust first. It's entirely voluntary what he does for us on the gardening Q&A, and we're very grateful for it. And he had a big job to complete yesterday. I think materials were delivered late, and he had to get on with that, quite rightly so. But Dean Mottershead, our old mate Dean Mottershead, who was creating a community, a workplace garden and community garden outside his workplace, jumped on and told us all about it from a wonderful part of the UK, Devon in the UK, where the railway line fell into the sea a few years ago. You might have seen it on the global news, but that was great. And of course, what was I talking about that? Oh yeah, but, on the gardening Q&A, we will be talking about water. Not water retention, that's a medical condition, isn't it? But water conservation and irrigation. It is going to be an issue, folks. I think gone are the days when we could just probably turn on the tap and out water would come, nothing to worry about. And similarly, electricity and gas, just turning on those taps in the 70s and 80s, carefree, gaily switching those utilities on and not worrying too much about the pain of the cost of them. So not just pain at the dentist, pain with the utilities and the cost of them, and us being a little more mindful, I guess, as we go forward. And those are the sorts of things we talk about on Consumer Tuesday here on the Good Morning Portugal show from expatsportugal.com. Hope you're well today. Let me know. And a great show last night. Thank you, Darren. Darren turned up last night in virtual reality. We're a phone in and a stream in. And Andy joined me. Thank you, Andy, as ever on the screen. But so did Darren, Tech Cowboy. In virtual reality, had some sort of headset on and not probes. I don't think he used probes. Not that he told us anyway, but sensors to show the movement of his hands. So he was in full virtual garb last night talking to us. And I was a little bit thrown by it, I have to say, but it was an interesting first for me. Not for him, though. He's right at the cutting edge of that sort of stuff. Morning, Gumpers. Can't stay up 2 nights in a row. Would love to say hi to Anna, though. She needs to be on more often, and she will be. She has a monthly residency now. Moolan on mortgages. If you've got any mortgage inquiries, do put them in the chat. in the questions in the comments. And we'll put those to Jacqueline, who'll be popping on briefly this morning before 9 and after 9. Yes, who Darren refers to there. Anna Caramujo, Savvy Cat, remember her? Savvy Cat Realty and the sensation in Portuguese real estate that is Anna will be talking to us. Good places to buy, what's going on, what's happened since we last spoke to her, that sort of thing. And I do have a couple of news items that she might want to comment on. You might want to comment on. Risk of falling house prices from the resident. Sorry, no. Rewind that. Risk of falling house prices from the Portugal news. Inflation, falling income, and rising cost of housing credit may reduce demand for homes to buy, states BDP. BDP, that's the bank, isn't it? Yeah, the National Bank of Portugal, of course. So I might dip into that before she joins us and then ask her for comment. And apparently 3 homes are sold every minute here in Portugal at the moment. Will that slow soon? I wonder. But where's that story gone? Somebody said, I think that was Newshound Phil sent that story as well, or that article. Prefer to call it an article rather than a story. Although I suppose it could be made up. And Portugal firmly on the real estate radar. Well, we knew that. Maybe the rest of the world is catching up with us. So let's have a look at that one as well. Got to find that article about a what is it? A house? One house sold every 3 minutes, not 3 houses. Carl, come on, concentrate. Get a grip on yourself, man. One house sold every 3 minutes, not 3 houses sold every minute. That's quite a big difference, isn't it? Doesn't sound like it, but that would add up, wouldn't it? And that also from the Portugal news this morning. The first quarter of this year was marked by the invasion of Ukraine. I thought I was going to say I thought they were banging on again about the invasion of American migrants. No, the first quarter of this year was marked by the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, but that was not enough to dampen the housing market in Portugal. I would hope not, with prices continuing to rise. So there you go. We'll come back to all of those a little bit later on. Looks like the best real estate articles are in the news, Portugal news this morning. Well, we'll see what the residents got to say as well. Tony's in. Baldilocks. Tony, how's it going? Where are you in your retirement journey? Are you starting to rearrange things around the house, digging holes in the garden, that sort of thing, or still just enjoying yourself? And it's quite a big change, isn't it? Let's face it, it is a big change in life. I hope it's going well for you. The slug has returned. James, bom dia, Gumpers. Feliz terça a todos. O que tem feito this morning? Very good, James. Speaking the Portuguese. And a Will Rogers quote of the day, not Portuguese. Maybe we'll have simultaneous translations of these one day when James's Portuguese is up to it. Good judgment comes from experience, and a lot that comes from bad judgment. So good judgment comes from experience, yes, and a lot of that comes from bad judgment. It's true. This is how we have to learn, isn't it? Us human beings. It's not easy being human, learning things by experience and having to make mistakes in order to correct your path, course, and so on. So thank you very much, Will Rogers. Continuing value. If there's a Randy tea duck shaped hole on your screen this morning, it's because he's not here this morning, but will be soon. But I have pictures instead of tea duck this morning. And look at these. These lift my heart. They really do. Thank you for these. They were sent in for the gardening show. It was a bit different last night, as I said, so we didn't get a chance to look at all the pictures and ask the appropriate questions. But look at this. Tea ducks pictures of the jacaranda trees. I believe them to be jacaranda trees in Portugal, in Lisbon, in the capital. And I just think they're so jolly and cheerful and vibrant and beautiful. A really, really important part of being in Lisbon in the spring and summer, the jacaranda trees. Thank you for that, those tea duck. We shall see you soon. Thank you very much for sending those in. Anyone who wants to send pictures in. Oh, yeah, and before it gets lost in the annals of time, we have a picture from John and Pam on their continued tour of Portugal, now in the north. And I think they've definitely had the San Martinho de Porto syndrome. Every place they've gone to, they've loved it and thought, okay, this is it. And then the next one they go to, right, okay, this is it. And then the next one, well, this might be it. So I don't know if they are settling on a particular choice. I don't know if you're here yet, John and Pam, but there's a lovely picture of Pam walking in the shade of the trees next to the Ponta Lima, the Lima River there, I guess, Ponta Lima, a place that many more people are falling in love with. There's a pattern emerging here. And you only have to put Vitor Costa in the title of your YouTube video, and it doubles and trebles the amount of viewers. And that and Bob and Viv as well, of course. So I think John and Pam will be as famous as Bob and Viv soon, as part of the phenomenon that's taking people to Ponta de Lima and the north of Portugal. And it does look really beautiful, doesn't it? And thank you to John and Pam for the picture. Thank you to the people who planted those trees, the people who had the forethought and the consideration of other humans to plant those trees. What, 100 years ago? I guess they look about 100 years old. The wonderful plane trees of Portugal. Sometimes you'll see them with a white band painted on them along the road. In Korea, for example, where I used to live, they're so beautiful, the plane trees, and they offer so much to us humans. And thank you to the earlier humans who planted them. Isn't that a lovely gesture? What is it? The best time to plant a tree was 100 years ago. Second best time is now. So there you go. Oh, it's all tied up, isn't it, with water conservation as well? What's this? Noom. I don't know what he's talking about. Maybe that'll make more sense. Maybe it won't, but maybe it will make more sense as we work our way through the comments there. Thank you, Andrew, for that random comment. Well, you are known for it, let's face it. Okay, and erudite insertions as well, it has to be said. We do like our erudite insertions here. First thing in the morning. I'm so excited for you with your retirement and your travel plan to put your body in this beautiful place. Let's FaceTime again real soon. James, I love it. I love it when the Gumpers connect with each other in early, which is unusual for anyone associated with EasyJet, right? But in early, I know we're giving them a bit of a bashing, aren't we? But air travel, what is it like at the moment, honestly? Hola, bon dia. There's no reason that Chris should feel the entire heat of the aviation industry. But Chris, come on. Please help him out. Hola, bon dia todos. Faja do dia. Al McCall, lock it up. Was it Al McCall who did hard work as well? No, maybe not. Al McCall, lock it up anyway. A 1984 jazz funk floor filler for you old funkers out there. Get on down and boogie. Thank you very much, Chris. How are you this morning? Thanks for joining me last night as well. You got it, James. That sounds like another FaceTime. It may well happen there. I was listening before the show to Jared Lawson. Congratulations to Jared, who I believe recently tied the knot with his beautiful bride. And keep making wonderful music, Jared Lawson. Just listen to Be the Change and embrace what we are, I think was the last track I just listened to before joining you on air this morning. Jared Lawson, very, very interesting and gifted artist. Okay, God Squad, tip of the day. I think we should do that before Jacqueline Mullen joins us, Mullen on Mortgages. To the point, straight to the point. Any questions you have about mortgages, financing property, she's your woman, and she'll be here real soon. And she doesn't mess about. You may have noticed if you've seen her before. Got a question about mortgages, she'll answer it. Boom, done. And she'll do some of that in a little while. Let's have some of this now, though. Okay, then. Water consumption. Hold on a minute. That's not the right place. Suddenly, loads of comments have piled in, and it throws everything wonky. So, God Squad tip of the day: growing old disgracefully. The gentle fitness for bon viveurs. Try to plan your exercise for the week. It'll probably be disrupted by, well, life, but at least you'll have a framework. Also, enjoy it. Life's too short, so make sure you enjoy your exercise. Gently does it. If it hurts, stop. And maybe yes, on a Sunday evening. As you are drinking that glass of red on a Sunday afternoon, think, yeah, okay, I'll walk to the market on Monday. Then on Tuesday, I'll go a little bit extra with the dogs. Yeah, I'll have a little bit of a plan like that. Thank you very much, Coach Turner. Keep them coming. And all are welcome to report back on their fitness and their well-being. We'd love to hear about that sort of thing. Well, I do anyway. I'm a bit nosy when it comes to that sort of stuff. One such person who may well be talking to us about fitness as well and staying healthy, Matty, of course, in Pombal this morning. Hola, bon dia, Algria, a todos de Pombal. I will just name check a few people because Jacqueline is here and keen to get on the screen. Keen to be on the screen. That's how we like our guests and co-hosts here. So Sarah's in, Andrew, James, of course. Trevor, good morning to Trevor. How are you, Trevor and Shannon? We have lots of talk from Andrew. That's all his man cave shout outs, isn't it? Nom de Plume is back. What's your real name, Nom de Plume? You confused me again. Bob Smith, Jacarandas, yes, of course. We have lots in the Algarve too. I know, but I find them synonymous with Lisbon, Bob. No offense meant. We know that the Algarve does come in for a special kind of treatment within the with the Gumpers. It's always a lot of fun. That little bit of banter with the Algarve. But yes, of course, you have Jacaranda Tree. Cindy B is here. Antonio F is here. Miguel Luis Souza Diaz is here, as well as John and Pam. John and Pam are here. And Victoria Mary Airo and John Gibson, Brian Taylor. Thank you all for being here this morning. Do you have mortgage questions? Because the most capable person I can think of to answer your questions is Jacqueline Mullen. Mullen of Mortgages, and she's here. I wonder where she is in the world right now. Oh, and it looks a little dark on us. You might have to turn the light on, Jacqueline. What's going on there?
Let me see if I can find the light. Better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because in the green room I can see you, but on the. Do you know what? I think what we'll do is we will close your video and we'll just hear you, or maybe you need to shut your video. If you turn your video off, we'll just have an avatar or something rather than a black square, which looks a bit ominous, doesn't it? On the
Still
screen.
black. I'm trying to find the most sunlight.
It still is. I'm going to turn it off and back on again, like you do in IT. No. What I've got is not a dark screen, but a black screen, like a black screen. So can you do me a favor and turn where it says switch video off? That might just turn you into an avatar rather than a black rectangle. Have you got that?
Let's have a look.
So,
Edit audio avatar.
No, the video one.
No, it's a video. Sorry.
Yeah, we just want you on sound if we can't see your lovely face. Which I don't think we can at the moment. Where are you in the world today? Are you in some far-flung corner?
I was in Lisbon last week, but I'm in the Netherlands right now.
Are you? Okay, so you saw the Jacaranda trees we've been talking about this morning.
Yes.
And how was Lisbon for you?
Oh, lovely. Oh my God, the city is so beautiful. Yeah,
it is especially so, isn't it, this time of year?
It's magical. I don't have any other words for it. So yeah, I can recommend everyone go to Portugal.
Yes,
and Lisbon,
yeah.
and all the other beautiful places, of course.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. Thank you for popping in this morning, of course, as well.
Yeah,
lots of mortgage processed. How's life with you in the mortgage business? Oh, what's going on? You okay? We've just got a dark rectangle, and it sounds like you're falling about. It sounds like you're maybe on a boat there.
Oh no!
Oh, okay, all right.
If anything, the opposite.
You're not on a barge. You're not on a barge in the Netherlands at the moment. Okay, sorry, go on. Yes, the mortgage industry, the housing industry, property finance. How's it all looking at the moment?
It's still, we still have a lot of people asking for mortgages. It hasn't really slowed down. Portugal, and I mean everywhere in the south too, the interest rates are increasing a bit because of the bit of the turbulence in the world, but not as much yet as in some other places. So we still can offer really nice conditions, good interest rates. They are increasing a little bit, but not as much as you might see in my home country, the Netherlands, for example, or the UK, or the US.
There's a lot of banging going on, Jacqueline. What's happening? Have you got your clogs on?
No, I haven't. I'm just moving. I'm sorry. I will leave my laptop on. I was just moving it around a little bit to see if I could figure out why the camera isn't working.
I don't know.
I'll leave it. I'll leave it in peace. I won't touch it anymore.
Yeah, no, you're all good. You're all good. It's just it's quite mysterious. You and I haven't spoken like this before, in complete darkness with a lot of banging going on. It's like the beginning of a murder mystery. We see in Portugal that one house is sold every 3 minutes. Portugal is firmly on the real estate world radar. Well, I think we knew that. Yeah. And then the more ominous news article saying that the risk of falling house prices is present at the moment. That's the Bank of Portugal. And I know I always put you in this difficult position, but it's crystal ball territory. What are you thinking here? Have we got a little bit of a bubble situation that could slow down or pop it anytime soon?
In terms of the housing market, that's not my specialty, of course. But I would say that it's I don't know. It's I would say that in Portugal you have this still. I mean, I can't look into the future, but you have this bit of this contra market reaction, and it's just because in other places of the world, real estate is just still more expensive, and quality of life isn't the level of Portugal has. So it's this, people buy a Rolex not because it's it's a very good watch, but because it's just very desirable to have. Yes. I see that a little bit with wouldn't call Portugal a Rolex, but something like, in those lines, in the idea of that it's just very desirable to live in Portugal and that people are still willing to pay for it. And if you hear that some people in the US are paying now 6 or 7% interest rate, we still around the 2-3% mark, or even lower maybe, depending on what you take out. But that's quite a difference when it comes to the interest rates, and then the pricing of houses also competitive with some parts of the world. And it's just that whole lifestyle that people want to go for. So if people can afford it, they will look for a bargain or for a good deal in the market. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, so we're kind of a little bit quirky, I suppose, aren't we? Here is that we occupy an interesting place in relation to the rest of the world. So it's not just that Portugal's a great place to and enjoy the jacaranda trees in Lisbon in the summer, but it's because of how the rest of the world is that also is holding up, I guess, how great and how strong Portugal is in the property market as well. That's a very interesting point you make, and long may it continue. And because I had this conversation with Vitor last Thursday, and I was asking him the question: is Portugal a good place to be in a recession? Because there are these fears, of course, aren't there, that we will have a slowdown. We're going into that part of the economic cycle. And so, would you agree with Vitor and myself? I have to agree. I have to think that myself. That's the conclusion I come to. With all that's going on in the world, Portugal is looking like a good place to be.
Yeah, and I mean, things are definitely in some places definitely slowing down, but a lot of buyers that we have, they are fortunate to be quite affluent. So
Yes.
I mean, second, if you're going to own a property in another country, even if you're living there permanent, usually you are quite affluent already, because not everyone can afford to have a second residence in another country.
Yes.
So that's one. And second, I think that in many realities, there's still we lack employees, so we have quite booming markets still, and
Yes.
that allows people from other places to buy in Portugal. I think
Yeah.
that's a factor too. And then it's the lifestyle. Even in, I mean, the Mortgage Direct company was started just before the 2008 crisis hit, and that was started in Spain.
Yes.
And despite that, and you could see people reaction. I see some reaction from people, which is more like they're getting nervous with things changing in the world. But then
Yes.
when that kind of nervousness calms down, then people still go back to, well, I still want to have that lifestyle, and that's what it's all about too. So people are, of course, it's about a big financial investment. I'm not downplaying it, but the
Yeah.
lifestyle is so attractive in the south of Europe that people, have funds available or want to go after that dream of owning a house there.
Yes. Okay. An excellent recipe, I guess
Yeah,
you could say. A lot of factors that are still pointing to Portugal as being a great
yeah.
place to buy property and to invest in. And yeah, don't just buy a house here. Come and live in it as well, folks. You're getting tech support, Jacqueline. If you have an active camera on in another app, it will override this one. You have to close the other one first. So you might have been on an early morning Skype call, and that's still looking at your camera or Teams or something like that. That could be an option. But
Not really, but
the gist is that I want to get across to everybody is that working with you is very straightforward. And all people need to do is drop you an email and find you via our business directory. There you go, business directory, mortgage direct SL is the place to go if you want to have a conversation with Jacqueline. Can you take us through that process, Jacqueline, of how easy it is for people to get a sense of what finance options might be available from you when buying a house in Portugal?
well, the easiest just I ask people to fill out our form.
Yeah,
If they get in touch with me, I'll just drop you an email back, or if they want to have a call, that's fine too.
yeah,
And then I ask you to fill out our application form, and we try to at least within 2 days get back to you on your lending options.
yeah,
And then if we think, because we really know how the banks look at applicants, and especially applicants who are not living in Portugal yet, but in general, we know what banks look for. We know what kind of profiles they approve. So we would only send you out a quote if we think that we have real chances of getting the mortgage approved.
yeah.
That's one.
Okay.
So if we see that there's no viability, we will also tell the client. But usually it doesn't happen a lot, but it happens, of course.
Yeah.
So that's step one. And then step two, if you are eligible for the mortgage, we do the official application we start introducing you to banks, and then we start that process. And depending a little bit, like the next question is, how long will this take? That's a very popular question.
Of course it is. Yeah.
Because especially if people really have found their dream home and they want to move in yesterday, basically.
Yes. Yes.
But let's say somewhere between 8 to 10 weeks, but it depends a little bit on each process. And not the banks will tell you way earlier in the process, yes or no. So that's just a couple of weeks, maybe 2 or 3, depending a little bit also on the complexity of your application, how many properties do you have, how many streams of income do you have, because income is kind of really the big thing to get a mortgage in place. And then we take it from there. But we have people from all over the world applying for mortgages here, so
Yeah.
we can really help you no matter where you're coming from.
Brilliant. The
Almost.
no nonsense approach. That's what we love about you, Jacqueline. And you will get back to people and let them know exactly where they stand. So
Yeah.
let me put those contact details on the screen again. How many houses you want? That was interesting. So people are buying multiple properties by the sound of it through you. And one question that has come up in the last couple of weeks for sure is this upper limit. And there was some question mark about it, and we didn't have you there to answer the question. Is it 70 or is it 75 for the upper limit on lending in Portugal?
You mean the age limit when
Yeah.
it has to be? Okay, yeah, it's 75. I mean, some banks like the mortgage to be paid off by the retirement age, but if you can prove that you have sufficient retirement funds, you can go up to the age of 75.
Yeah.
And in a rare situation, we can have, if you have two applicants, I think I've mentioned that also in another show, that if one of them is younger, we might be able to base it on the younger part of the applicant. But that's not always possible for everyone. And it's definitely not possible with each bank. It's not something that a lot of banks are lining up for. But we have some interesting context and can look for creative solutions. But I mean, we always have to fulfill the income equation and the outgoings to make sure that fits. And income means the income you see in the tax returns. Getting a lot of questions about that
Yes.
too. What kind of income counts? I think one person even after the show contacted me and said, "You must be getting really fed up with all these questions about Bitcoin income and etc." And if that is, if anything from that kind of income also counts, it's really it's quite straightforward. It's very simple. If it's in your tax return, it counts. And I recently learned that you actually, about all these alternative currencies that we're having, you do have to declare taxes on it. It's just that most people don't know it. But so there you go.
Yes.
If you have any form of income and you think it's not taxable, first speak to your tax advisors. Make sure that you are within
Yes.
the rules.
Well,
And
that's
then
right. That's right. The tax authorities like to make the final decision, don't they? Not you.
I'm not the tax man, but
No, I don't mean you, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you can't make your own assessment. Well, I think I'll pay tax on that bit, but not that bit. I'm not sure the IRS are too keen on that. So, thank you very much, Jackie. Always great fun to speak to you. So, no nonsense, straightforward and quick answers from Mortgage Direct, and with Jacqueline there, as you can hear, long established as well, and came through the 2008 with everybody, making sure that
Yeah,
houses bought in the Iberian Peninsula here. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. Great to
you're
talk to you.
welcome.
Look forward to talking to you again, and maybe seeing you next time on the screen. That'd be awesome.
I don't know. I can see myself, so that's the funny
It's like
bit.
Scooby Doo here, isn't it?
Yeah,
I suspect the janitor or your cats have been messing around with the camera cable. How are your
always. They
Yes,
are lovely playing outside at the moment, so they're not
are they?
interfering with the camera. But of course, they could
Yes.
have done something
They
prior
could
to
have been
sabotage.
nibbling through the cable overnight, couldn't they?
It's definitely an option. Yeah.
We know what cats are like. All right, take care. Love to the Netherlands. Bye for
Thank
now.
you. Thank you,
Ciao. There
Carl.
she goes.
Thanks.
There she goes. How lovely to see her, kind of. Jacqueline Mullen there, Mullen on Mortgages. I've got a lovely kind of snapshot in the green room of Jacqueline, and I can tell you that she's in a lovely room, but we couldn't bring her to the screen, unfortunately, this morning. Well, that's how it goes sometimes. That's how the cookie crumbles occasionally. And if you want to do, if you want to see for yourself, set up a Zoom call to chat about your mortgage options. But fill in the application form first, as she's asked for there, and the email address for doing so is in the comments right now. Let's say hello to a few more people before Anna joins us. Savvy Cat Realty, the legend that is Anna Caramujo from Savvy Cat Realty, has been a lot of fun to talk to on webinars and on the breakfast show. I know you all love hearing Anna's view on the real estate here in Portugal and how she is transforming it. Settings, Carl. I know, Andrew. Come on, we did our best to get Jacqueline on the screen. Jess is also here this morning. I missed you from the name check earlier on. Let's see what's been said this morning. Yes, Jacaranda, Cindy B. Bondi, Algria Gumpers, and Trevor. We are on, what's this? We're on the Metro Green Line. Areos station. What right now? That's good, isn't it? I think it is free Wi-Fi on the Lisbon metro, isn't it? Yes, almost unimaginable quantities of water use and waste are in agriculture and animal husbandry. Not an excuse not to do our part, but a place to look for better conservation. Yeah, I did see a golf course owner saying that golf is not to blame. Water consumption, this is what James is saying in California, is overwhelmingly the highest in agriculture and beef. He's got a beef with beef production by the sound of it. Personal consumption is actually a relatively small percentage of use and waste of water. I suppose, yes, unless, of course, you're the person consuming the food and the beef. I guess it's a holistic picture we need to look at. And yeah, I think it's right. Same in Portugal. A lot of water is going into agricultural use, especially them avocados. What's this? I remember reading somewhere that almond production used huge amounts of water. Seems a pretty poor use, in my opinion. What's the matter? Don't you like almonds? There, Ian. Anna coming with us in just a couple of minutes. She'll be on the screen. Anna Caramujo, everybody from Savvy Cat Realty. I live on a golf course. Bonkers of wasted water too. I said bonkers use of water. So you live on the golf course. So that's a bit inconvenient, isn't it? Watch out, Bob. Ball coming through. I'm sure he lives on the side in a golf condo. I did as well, actually, in Lisbon. Very nice. At Aroeira. Is that what it's called? Yes, down there by Fontainebleau, south of the river. Beautiful place to live. Aroeira. And Brian with a bon dia, John with a bon dia as well. A dad joke warning. Let me star that for later on. Thank you very much for that. Yes, dad jokes to come. Mary Airo with a bon dia, everyone. A todos. Victoria's in. How are you? Capricorn reminded me of that dad joke. So you could you can't sort of kind of blame someone else for a dad joke. You have to take it fair and square. That's all part of it. You have to face the groaning and the complaining alone when you utter a dad joke. Jeff Owens in, Jess, of course, and Sam Nazare with some tech help for Jacqueline there too. Anyway, let's find out. Is she in Lisbon? Is she somewhere else in the country right now? It's Anna Caramujo of Savvy Cat Realty, everybody. How are you, Anna? Lovely to see you.
I'm good. I'm in Porto because I went for São João.
Of course you did. Now, did you hit many people on the head with a plastic hammer?
I did. And I decided to get rid of some of my meat stock, and it wasn't my best ideas.
You decided to get rid of some of your what?
Mead stock, honey. Beer.
Oh, okay. Well, as in you were consuming it and making a dent in your stock.
It was very productive. No,
okay. As in never again. With that?
I think I have my dose of alcohol for the next year, but yeah.
So a very good Sajwell for you. For people who don't know, can you explain to us this wonderful festival? We had the firework display. Somebody sent us a video of the firework display, which they said was the best they'd ever seen in their life. Typically understated for Portugal. One of the best parties in Europe, it has to be said. What does it look like? When does it start? When does it finish? And what goes on in between?
So it actually was really interesting because it was pouring in the morning, and I had brought my friend from Lisbon that has never been in São João, and another friend that had never been was also joining, and I was like, it's raining, it's going to suck. And we were all super worried, but from I don't know, like 3-4 p.m. on, it started to clear, and it actually ended up to be a very pleasant end of afternoon. But as to the traditional São João, it usually starts in the afternoon with some marches and so on. And people do all kinds of usually barbecues on the streets. It's typical to have sardines and grilled mixed, so all kinds of meats and so on. I actually did it on the backyard, it's typical to launch a balloon. So we have there's different sizes. Usually there's 3 sizes: the small, the medium, and the big ones. And it's really hard to launch those when it's windy, because you have to light them up, and people have to grab them in order for them not to catch fire. And we burned the 2 we tried to take out, but my mother and my brother managed to launch one, so that's
very good. And the sky was lit with lanterns.
Yes, it's one of my favorite parts of São João. It's looking up and seeing all the balloons in the sky. It's so lovely.
Yes, indeed. Incredible. And the plastic hammer thing then. So part of it is going around and bopping people on the head.
Yeah,
Strangers,
there's a
actually.
bunch of traditions. You have the plastic hammer thing, and then you don't see that as much now, al porro. So it's kind of a stick with a flower on the top. It's a plant. It's a
Yes.
flower that it's like this size,
Yes.
and it smells bad like garlic. And it's traditional to stick it at a face of single men, so they find a partner. And usually the old
Ah,
ladies are on the windows all throughout, just sticking it on people's face.
I see. So there's often a courtship ritual associated with festivals,
Yes,
isn't there?
actually, the hammers are also associated with courtship. It's also about, finding a partner and so on. Saint Jean is very much about that.
Yes. Well, okay. Well, we've got our first question. Thank you for that cultural insight. Really appreciate that. And it sounds like you had a fantastic time. Get your plastic hammers ready, everybody, for next year. And the stinky garlic thing, if you're looking for a partner, it might help, strangely. How to say it's going to suck in Portuguese? I think Nom de Plume liked your turn
Well,
of
do you want the censored version or the non-censored version?
Even if it's in Portuguese, we shouldn't cause too much offense, but probably we should go for the censored version, just in case grandma is listening.
Well, probably vai ser uma treta.
There you go, nom de plume. You asked for it, you got it straight away. So it's been a little while since we've had a chat. Last time we were talking on a webinar together, and you are an increasingly legendary person in Portuguese real estate with your transformational approach to it, Anna. How's it all going, and what's your assessment of the scene at the moment, the Portuguese property scene?
I'm concerned, to be honest, because prices have risen about, I think it was 21% on the first trimester of 2022, which is a lot because these are official numbers from the Statistic Institute from throughout the country. It means that the whole country, in average, the raise on prices was 21% for sale, and for rental it was even more. And this is not a sustainable rate of increase at all. And that is concerning. And one of the reasons I'm trying to do things the way I do is exactly to try and slow this down a bit. But honestly, you can't do a lot when you're doing it alone. I do as much as I can, and I try to get as much information on my client side and explain them when they are, and may try to make sure they don't overpay for things. But at the rate things are increasing, it's getting increasingly unsustainable. Rentals, it's another thing. I'm probably going to make a blog post about all of these with the numbers soon, because another statistic that was released was the comparison between the increase of salaries to the increase of rent, and it's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah, so true.
2015 thing, they considered the baseline when things were equivalent, and now you have the salaries here and the rents here.
Yes. I'm very impressed that you're seeking to do something to address the injustices of this situation. What can you do individually, though? Because it's all very well you trying to address it, but other people will come along, won't they? Make inflated offers, and that's really the problem, isn't it? Is the offers coming in from every direction, and who in their right mind, understandably, wouldn't accept those offers?
Yeah, I think obviously from a seller perspective, why would you sell for 500 if you can sell for 1 million, right?
Yeah, right.
But from a buyer perspective, that's obviously not the case. So I believe that the only place where you can actually make a difference is on the buyer side, because if people understand they are overpaying and stop overpaying, it's the only way to control things, because sellers won't want to sell for less unless they have to. It's a free market after all, and unless government makes a control, some kind of control mechanism, which I don't believe will happen on sales. It may happen on rent, but I don't think they will be able to do much. The only thing that the government will be able to do is affordable housing projects, which they have been trying to do.
Yeah.
But as you know, Portuguese government is very slow on everything. So
yes, I had noticed. I didn't want to jump to any conclusions, But having been here nearly 5 years, I think your assessment is probably correct. But are they any different to any other? I mean, where in the world could you look at and say, okay, well, this government has dealt very well with gentrification and
Well,
foreign?
that's true, but from a bureaucratic and efficiency perspective, especially I deal with a lot of clients from the US and Canada, and there's a very big culture clash because Americans and Canadians are used to being responded to in like 1 to 2 days.
Yes.
Yes. Good luck with that here.
Indeed, I'm sure you do at your end. But yeah, I was talking to Gilda about this yesterday. You know, the out of office response in the United States. You know, I'm having my kidney out, but you can catch me on my cell phone. In Europe, Southern Europe, you know, it's August. We'll talk to you again in September. There is a cultural difference. What would you say to your North American clients about getting used to this, and how do you deal with that?
Well, I had actually to adapt a lot from the beginning because honestly, I wasn't expecting things to be like that, and I started getting a lot of negative feedback for people because I would take a longer to reply, which was normal here in Portugal, but not
Yes.
normal for them.
Yeah.
And people would completely freak out because I was a new business, and then they was like, "Oh, I'm getting scammed," and that kind of thing. And honestly, I had to implement a lot of protocols for fast responses, and my agents are expected to respond within 48 hours. And I
Yes.
also try to respond on my own mailbox as soon as possible, but sometimes I take a bit longer because, well, I kind of do a lot of things at the same time. um,
Well, this was the coaching that we gave to our North American friends yesterday. It's like, don't take it personally.
I know, I know.
Yeah,
And
but
now
there is,
on when I start a relationship with the clients, especially Americans and Canadians, I always tell them you really need to adjust your expectations when it comes to timelines. Because
yes,
here, even when I think it's going to take a week, and I'm like, okay, this may take a week, often it takes two, and so stuff like that. And it can be very, very frustrating. And for example, for my investor clients, one of my biggest investor clients, it's actually a very reasonable and patient person, but
yes,
we are both getting quite frustrated because he actually closed the deal back in November, and it's been getting back and forth, and we are trying to do the deed somewhere next month because it's been like first it was waiting for a reply on town hall, then it was the sellers that didn't have a document that was needed for the promise, then it was the legal draft of the promise because it was two businesses and there was a lot of back and forth between lawyers, and when it went to a lawyer it took 2 weeks, and then it went to the other lawyer and it took another 2 weeks, and back and forth, and it was like 2 or 3 months like this. And now we are waiting for the finances to update an area, and the finances updated an area, and because in Portuguese there's
oh
no
dear.
such thing as crossing information, now we have to wait for the registry to update the area. So
Wow. Okay. So this is a test of patience for your patient client there. Do you
yes,
think,
it is.
you know, looking forward into the future, do you think it is going to change? Are the incoming expectations changing the scene? Do you anticipate that, or is Portugal just going to stay as it is?
I think that the public services are going to slowly improve. I already noticed some improvement because, for example, it used to be an absolute nightmare to contact services by phone. And
Yeah.
now they have fairly responsive phone lines where you can actually get responses, which is new.
Yeah.
But you know, the it's kind of sad because the expectations are really low. We are already used for the public services to be so bad that when they work right, we're like, oh, this is nice.
Excellent. We have a question in from Bob. We'll come back to you in a moment. Bob, anything you want to know about buying or renting in Portugal? Anna Caramujo is here from Savvy Cat Realty, who knows about these things and is doing her best to change that scene as you've just heard there. This is one of the articles that's around at the moment. So that one house sold every 3 minutes in Portugal. So it's kind of a mixed blessing, isn't it? Isn't that great that the economy is experiencing this? But that does contribute to the sort of problems you were talking about before, of course, there, Anna. And let's have a little scroll through this, and you might have, I'm sure you'll have comments on this. Typical picture of Porto. While we're on that subject of Porto, where you are, what have you seen happen there in the last year or two? And does it worry you?
Well, in the last year or two, during COVID, things were relatively calm because most of the foreign buyers weren't very comfortable on being on the market because they didn't feel very comfortable with the trips and, the whole uncertainty on when borders close or open and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And an interesting phenomenon that happened, especially in 2020 when the pandemic started, was that people started taking very much lower offers. So when the pandemic blew up, what happened was uh, you didn't notice it directly on the market prices, but people were accepting much lower offers. And most of the buyers on the market were Portuguese. So what happened was that the number of mortgages skyrocketed. So a lot of Portuguese people took the opportunity to buy a house since the foreign buyers weren't active on the market. And many, especially the sellers that weren't willing to wait to sit on it until the pandemic was over, accepted much lower offers. And that happened, for example, I had a tenant in the building I'm in right now, and they moved lower down the street for a village, the townhouse that was being listed. I think it was for 300 or 320, and they made an offer for 240 before the pandemic started.
Mm-hmm.
And after the like 4 or 5 months into the pandemic, they accepted their offer, but it was like they only accepted their offer 6 months after it was made.
Yes.
But that only happened during this period. Now, because there is so much buyers on the market, the prices aren't that negotiable. The negotiation margin you have, it very much depends on the circumstances around the sale, whether or not the person is needing the money fast. And cash buyers always have a bit more of a wiggle room because they can make the process much faster, while people that need loans need to go through the loan approval process. As here in Portugal, the pre-approval is very much theoretical.
Yes. So yeah, cash buyers, it does help, doesn't it, that they're ready, they and that they can take advantage of these quirks.
It makes it faster to finish the process, and it's usually more attractive for the sellers.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's have a look at these stats then about one house sold every 3 minutes. First quarter of this year was marked by the invasion of the Ukraine by Russia, of course, but that was not enough to dampen the housing market in Portugal, with prices continuing to rise. This was published in the Portugal News on the 24th, just 4 days ago. According to a report by CNN Portugal, who are new on the scene, on average, a house was traded in Portugal every 3 minutes, including early mornings and weekends. Well, that's a surprise. On average, each house was sold for around 186,000 euros, which is also a bit of a surprise, isn't it? For every 17 houses sold, 15 were bought by families. Of the same 17 houses, 16 were sold to Portuguese and 1 to foreigners. Prices up by 12.9%. Does that surprise you, the statistics here? I don't know how wide the CNN Portugal sample was, but it's interesting, just in the same way that we have this furore almost about American migrants coming to Portugal and the noise that's being made about that. And then we discover actually that nine out of 10 migrants to Portugal are actually coming to do agricultural work, or working doing important food production type jobs, and not the kind of white collar sort of stuff or retirement that we thought that migration was made up of. Here we have not all the houses being bought up by migrants, but mostly by Portuguese people. Why are Portuguese people moving so much at the moment?
Well, I think Portuguese people move. People buy and sell houses all the time for various reasons. I actually want to buy a house in Aveiro because most of the property I own right now, it's family property, and I just want to have one that's just my own.
Yes.
I actually used the one that I sold it to fund this business. So I kind of want a house again.
You're going to be part
Um,
of that scene, part of the economy yourself of a Portuguese buying a house. I am surprised by this. So Portuguese people do move a lot, do they? Or they're trading houses among themselves and the family? Is that how it's working?
I think it's not that like they move a lot, but for example, it happens every now and again that people get a better job offer, a stable one on a different location, and they sell the house they're in and they go to buy another one in that different location. A lot of people also own more than one property. That is also very common. Um,
Yes.
and I'm actually not surprised by the immigration statistics, and I actually don't know if the statistic count as resident anyone with a visa, or if they just count the Portuguese nationals. That's also something relevant. And
Yes.
the other thing that I was actually a bit surprised was the average price. But yeah, it's actually a good thing that the average price is it was 180K, you said?
186, yeah,
Yeah.
186, which does surprise me. I'd have that as higher, and I'd have the number of people buying houses as foreigners higher than that as well. So yes, of the 17 house sample, 15 were bought by families and 16 were sold to Portuguese, and only one of those to foreigners. So all is not what it seems. Possibly that's
Yeah,
a
but
fascinating.
I think that statistic may also be that they are counting Portuguese as residents with visas. I don't know.
Ah, okay, yes. That's what happens when you scratch the surface of statistics, isn't it? You
Yeah.
may get another surprise there. We got a lovely comment in. Who's this? Wasim Akhtar asking, nice show. I'm self-employed. I would like to know if I'm eligible for the D7 visa. Well, it's about showing your income, your passive income, and your savings, Wasim. So I don't see why not. Something else we might talk about here, though, and what you also need for your D7 visa, Wasim, is a rental agreement, a lease. To show that
Actually, what you need for the D7 visa is proof of adequate accommodation that can be achieved in multiple ways.
yes, of
The,
course.
the rental one is the most common one, and especially the US embassies have been asking for a year rental. But the request, the legal draft here in Portugal is proof of adequate accommodation, and there is actually no specification of the duration of this accommodation. So what happens is some embassies just ask for a few months or even allow you to come to Portugal and give you a certain period of time to get your rental contract. Other embassies required rental contract in ahead. So it's very much depends on the embassy you are working with and the place of residence you are in currently. But overall, the D7 visa is a self-sustenance visa, and you just have to prove that you won't be a burden to the Portuguese state.
That's the gist of it, isn't it? Not being a burden, and that's what's behind it. Certainly, for a lot of American embassies, consulates, it seems to be all about the rental agreement, doesn't it? In the 12 months, are you feeling a lot of pressure with that? A lot of people asking you to find that for them at the moment.
Yeah, I do get it. That's one of the biggest frustrations with people in that situation is that they have to close the rental prior to actually moving, because here in Portugal, the rental scene is very much ready to move in, and people don't really do contracts ahead of time very often. Like you won't be able to close a rental in July to come in September. That only happens in for example, Algarve, and that's only for the low season rentals. For example, it's very common in the Algarve for landlords to rent for holidays during the high season, so between May and September, and then rent at decent lower price for a medium term between September, October until March, May. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I guess that pressure is continuing. That is a panic for people needing that lease agreement. But have you been fairly comfortable with that, finding people places?
we've been fairly comfortable in the places that are there is a lot of demand and not a lot of supply. What happens is very much in Lisbon, it's been a bit terrible because we're reaching the point where you have bidding wars on rentals and prices are completely out of reality with the Portuguese economy. Truth, Portuguese people cannot rent in Lisbon anymore unless it's really those landlords that don't want to rent at market prices and are just sometimes out of touch with market prices. That's pretty much the only way that you will be able to get a low price rental in Lisbon.
How do we
Because
find them? Everybody wants to meet them now. How do you find the landlord who's out of touch with the market?
there aren't a lot of them, but but the thing is, most of the situations where that happened, the tenants don't leave, so the rentals don't become available. But I
Yes.
know that my family has buildings in Lisbon in the Avenida 25 de Abril, and I know that the rents there that that we are charging are between 300 and 700, which is very, very under the market price right now.
This isn't
But
it?
the
Right
thing is,
next to
these
the LX
people have
factory.
been there for like 10 or 20 years.
Yes, well, fair enough. It sounds like you have a very lovely approach, you and your family, to a humanitarian approach rather than a straight up commercial one. So a few comments and questions. 1 to 2 days or less. I think that's Phil's expectation of when to be contacted in terms of customer service.
Yeah,
Probably-
that's another thing that can be very frustrating. So when it comes to rentals, in purchases too, but in purchases it's more common to have agencies than it is to have privates. You do
yes,
sometimes have the private ads, but it's much more common to find agency ads. While in rentals, it's kind of 50-50. Lots of people do their own rental agreement and the process.
yeah,
The lots of landlords. And what happens in the very high demand market, especially like Lisbon, is that it's completely nuts. Like you will call the ad that was listed 3 hours ago, and they already have a waiting list of 20 people to go there.
yeah.
So that's what has been incentivizing the bidding wars, because then what happens is the people that have the financial capacity start saying, okay, I'll pay more because I want to have this house as quickly as possible.
Sure. And that's, of course, why you
Yeah.
need a buyer's agent like Savvy Cat, like Anna Caramujo, working with you with the inside track to save you a lot of that hassle. Bon dia says Bob up in the north, chosen the north. And actually, we need to come back to this and the phenomenon of the newly discovered north of Porto that people are falling in love with. But what Bob's saying for now is that we know several people who've made offers on properties that were for sale for years, only to have prices bumped 50%. No sale, leaving the owners with nothing. What's happening there then? Is that a little bit of late greed where people are being bitten on the
It
bottom?
can be. So here the very much depends on the reason for the sale. For if the person doesn't really need the money and are willing to sit on it, they often just sit on it.
Yes.
And that's another thing that especially Americans find very strange here in the market is, even though there is depends on the area, but in the big cities there's a fairly high amount of demand. But it's not like you have to close the deal in one day. Like in rentals right now, especially in the high demand areas, you pretty much have to say yes or no right there and then, because otherwise it's gone.
Mm.
But in sales, it's not so much so. Usually, if things go very well, the house will stay like 3 months on the market, and that's if things go very well. If it's like an absolute find that everyone wants it, it may be like a month. But usually it's more on the 6 months time frame to sell a house, even on the higher demand areas. So it's not like in America, well, you sell a house in a week. It's not that bad yet.
While we're talking about American perception, and I think this applies to the UK as well, and something you said before about your own family, families owning property. Now, in the nuclear situation, the nuclear families, and every man for himself and every woman for herself in the UK and the US in the property market, Most people have one house that they've struggled tooth and claw to buy, scraped everything together to get a deposit, paid the mortgage, and hopefully in 20, 25 or 30 years it's theirs. It's a bit different here in Portugal, it would seem. Houses are owned by the extended family and they mix and match and go on holiday in each other's houses. Is that the cultural difference?
Yeah, that's very much the thing. So for giving the example of my family, curiously, most of the investment on real estate made by my family was made by the 2 generations back by my grandfather and great grandparents, and it stayed in the family. But yes, that's actually very much a thing. For example, we have a house on an island in Ilha do Farol, down by, you catch the boat in either Olhão or Faro.
Yes,
Yeah,
you're not
it's
the only
lovely.
one.
I
Yes.
definitely recommend. And we have a house there, and it's pretty much it. We're like, who's going to be there this week? Okay, we kind of book our holidays, and everyone goes in like to use that house, and it's the holiday house of the family. So yeah, that's a very common thing here in Portugal.
That's good. Yes, and that's what you'll notice on a Friday afternoon. That's another reason why you can't necessarily get hold of people on a Friday, is because they're making their way to one of the family residences in the country, possibly. And what I would say, excuse me a minute, is that Airbnb is a recent phenomenon. It sounds like Portuguese families have been doing share B&B forever with each other across the extended family. So this
Yeah,
is
but it's usually not a paid thing. It's just a usage thing. Usually, no, we don't charge anyone for using the house. It's just the whole family use it, and it belongs to my grandmother, and everyone below her can use her.
that is beautiful. That is a lovely principle, isn't it? Rather than everything being, down to the individual units, a shared approach. Love that. There's a market, says Phil, Newshound Phil, because he's sending me so many good stories just recently on articles. There's a market for the real estate that has the 9 to 10 documents needed to buy, sell documents. It is a great idea, this. What I think he's getting at is possibly an online system where houses are cleared for sale. And they are definitely for sale, because that is a problem, isn't it, Anna? People say
Yeah,
that.
that's one of the very frustrating things that we have with the sale process. Is one, it is very very common for listings to stay up after the house has been sold, because the agencies use that to get leads from buying clients.
Yeah.
And it can be very very frustrating. Like, sometimes we've had clients that we contact like 10 properties for them, and only 2 are still available, because that's a very common
Terrible.
thing.
Yes.
And another thing that is very common and very annoying is that if the selling agents don't do the due diligences on the documentation of the houses, and then when you start asking for the documentation, there is a bunch of it missing, or you discover there are some illegal parts and all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And debts and all that kind of thing. We usually do backtrack checks on all of that, and sometimes we get some interesting surprises.
I bet you do. I bet you do. There's some very interesting things going on with people who bought a little country house a few years back, and how they may have funded it. But yes, I think Phil's onto something here. If you had houses, if you had properties that were truly for sale, and they hadn't been sold, and they were ready for sale because all of those 9 to 10 documents were actually completed, we shouldn't be that difficult. It's definitely a cultural thing, isn't it? That would be a very good idea.
It can be difficult, because some of the documents you have to request them from town hall, or the finances and registry and all of that, and sometimes it takes forever. And people are just like, oh, I'll list it and I'll get him in the meantime, and the meantime can be a while.
The meantime can be a while. We should write that down for sure. So this is an example of the gentrification problem. Bob, up there in the north, we have an 80-year young friend renting a T1. Believe this is a Portuguese person who's just had his rent bumped from 500 to 750. Is that allowed, Anna?
Yeah, I was actually going to comment on that. So if he had, unless the contract finished and it was going to renew, you cannot increase the rent more than a certain percentage. I cannot remember it. I have to check it on the law, but it's not that high of a percentage. There's the inflation rate, and I think it's about 2 point something percent. That's something you can increase every year.
Yes.
And then there is the the debt limit that you can increase, but it's sometimes landlords leave that on the contracts, and if you sign the contract saying that the landlord can increase the rent, well, then they can increase the rent. But if not, and the contract has not finished or being up for renewal, then they cannot make an increase like that, because that's
Very
a
good.
50% increase.
Is that a service you offer, by the way? So if somebody's just signed a lease here, would you have a look at it and advise them on it?
We offer the whole package. So our rental package, it includes the search, the verification, the visitation, and the legal verification of the contracts and everything. Another thing that is a bit problematic is that legally you cannot ask for more than 3 months of rent. That's actually set by the Portuguese law.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you see that so often, and there is not much we can do to stop it. And there is actually no control at all on people doing that. So it's technically illegal, but everyone is doing it.
And to
it
be
cannot
fair, I
be-
suppose, to be fair to the, sorry to interrupt, to be fair to the person wanting to charge you more than 3 months, they might not know you. You might be a foreigner. Is that part of the reasoning behind it? Is
Yeah,
that
it's very much part of the reason. So what happens here in Portugal is that you cannot charge more than 3 months ahead of rent, but there is no limitation on the security deposit. So you can charge several security deposits. It can be problematic for the buyer, because if the apartment is not in the condition expected, or you end up starting having problems with the landlord, it will be very, very hard to get your money back.
Yes. Okay. All right. So that's a bit of a challenge there. And again, another reason to have a buyer's agent working on your behalf who can sound a little bit more authoritative about these things than you might as an incomer coming into the culture. Bon dia, jumping in late. We'll have to go back and watch from the beginning. Of course you will. Anna bringing people who've heard about you, Anna, to the show this morning and wanting to hear you speak about property sales and rentals here in Portugal. Solo 50 plus expat Portugal. One of them who was at our meetup. Oh, maybe see you at the meetup tomorrow, folks. Silver Coast meetup tomorrow on a Wednesday, of course, between 1 and 3.
I
Maybe
should send Vienna there. I didn't know it was happening.
Absolutely, we'd love to see you there one of these days.
I'm in Porto, but I could send Diana there. Diana is my Silver Coast agent.
Please do. I will send you the link after the show. Hola, bon dia, Carl and Anna. Question then from SD. Question for Anna. Recently viewed a nice property. That's easy to do here, isn't it? That's the enjoyable part of the process. However, it had no license. Agent advised we'd have to pay 10 to 15K to get the license. What license are we talking about
So
here?
there's a bunch of licenses. Is it the habitation license? Was it expanded and not licensed? There is a bunch of licenses here in Portugal.
So maybe they're talking about a alojamento local even.
It can be a lot of licenses. So what I recommend in this kind of scenarios is to do a promise contract and pay a sign that covers that kind of thing, and leave it on the promise contract that the seller is responsible to have that sorted out before the deed happens.
That should motivate them, shouldn't it? Otherwise, they will lose, and maybe even have to pay you some of the deposit. Oh no, not with a promissory stage.
No, they basically would have to give you back the money if they don't comply.
Yes, and is it right? Is it normal that they have to pay to get the license? What's that about? The agent advised we have to pay.
Yeah, the agents usually do that because they just want to close the sale as soon as possible to get their commission. And agents in Portugal are very much trained to close sales and to be very commercial. Yeah. And that's okay from a seller perspective, because, well, what you want to do is to sell houses and to sell them as high as possible, because that's what the seller client wants.
Yes.
But as a buyer client, you want to make sure you are going to make a good purchase and that house doesn't give you problems. So it can be illegal to make transactions without this kind of licenses, although people always find a ways around it. It's not really supposed to happen. But I never recommend to make the final deed without having this kind of paperwork taken care of, unless it's something minor that you are willing, to just leave it be.
Very good. Thank you, Anna. Bon dia todos from Porto as well. Jim's also down the road from you, and we'll be talking to Jim about his journey to Portugal, moving to Portugal on Thursday. So there you go, SD. I hope that helps. If it hasn't, if there's more you need to ask, you know exactly what to do. João F. a fellow countryman here with a view on government departments. Allow me to say this. Yes, we will, João. Crossing information between government institutions has proven difficult only when it is about making citizens' lives easier. You're nodding there, Anna. But when
Yeah,
it comes,
it annoys me so much because it's so silly that there is no crossover of information between public services. I mean, even between Segurança Social and Finanças, it just makes absolutely no sense. You have to go to each of them separately to do the same thing.
yeah, crazy. However, when it comes to charging you with taxes, information flows at light speed, funnily enough. They need the same people on the job, I think, there. Anna, do you offer assistance throughout mainland Portugal or only the big cities? So, yes, since we've had our first conversations, you have expanded your network. Tell us about it, please.
Yes, so currently I have about 10 employees and we are covering the whole country. I have someone in Algarve, someone in Alentejo, someone in Lisbon, someone in the Caldas and Leiria Silver Coast area, then someone covering Coimbra and Aveiro area, someone in Porto, and someone in the north based in Braga. So yes, I am covering the whole country. What happens when we go to more interior cities? When it's sale process, we do include that because we have a travel allowance in our packages, and we include that. So we are counting on that in case we have to go to other cities and so on. And when it is rentals, it can be a bit more limiting and depends a bit on how far the rental is. When the rental is very far, we will try to get the agents to do the selling agents or the owners to send a video before we actually go there, so we don't do unnecessary travel.
Yeah.
But yes, we work with the whole country, and only those more isolated, especially more interior locations that can be a bit more complicated on rentals. On sales, we work around it.
Sorry, did you mention the Azores and Madeira?
No, I did not. I'm not working in the islands currently. I have a lot of requests for Madeira, and I've been considering it, and actually looked into getting someone just to test it out on the area. But I actually haven't found anyone that was suitable so far, so I'm not covering that location at the moment.
Okay, there you go, Jess. And to you as well, nom de plume. Yes, so pretty good coverage, it has to be said. What a team. Landlords may rent for less than market value for cash under the table in order to avoid the tax liabilities. Of course they might. I believe this is part of the reason CEF has eliminated the atestado. It's not been eliminated, has it? It's just not looked on favorably by some particular consulates and embassies, right? The atestado approach.
No, the atestado, it hasn't been eliminated at all. I still know of people that went through that way, but the atestado, what happened with the atestado is basically some Portuguese citizen that owns a property, and that property has to have enough room to house their family agglomerate and your family agglomerate. Because if it don't, it won't work, and they will check.
Yes, so what they're saying, okay, you've got this address with your distant cousin, and it's a T1, and there are 6 of you living there.
And they will say, no, that's not they won't accept that.
But we really like each other. Nope, sorry. However much you like each other, we can't accept that. Okay, so thank you for putting that point, though, James, there. And yes, going back, a couple of points from Bob. The houses I'm referring to for sale for years are needing significant work and only decaying further the longer they're empty. It's hard to comprehend why people wouldn't sell them. So why wouldn't they sell them? Why would they rather see it rot than sell it?
I know that can be extremely frustrating because people sometimes they are just stubborn and they just refuse. Sometimes it's also inheritance things. Sometimes because here in Portugal, it's very often for a family to have belonged, to grandparents and so on, and we pass down. And now like 10 people own it, and if one says no, no one can sell it.
Yeah, okay. So it appears to be for sale, but when it comes to it, the distant cousin, João or somebody, says, no, I grew up in this house. I remember being here with my grandmother. I'm too attached to it. I'm not, even though the other 7 of you want to sell, I don't. And he can stop that, right?
Yes, and it can be. It's also a kind of a managing problem here in Portugal, and I actually noticed that with my own family, and I can clash a lot with, especially my father's side of the family, because they have this typical Portuguese approach of spending and doing the minimum bearable possible. So things will like, okay, this pipe bursted, and we're going to send someone to just do the cheap fix. And now a year later, we'll have to do it again instead of doing the proper thing and do a proper renovation. And that's a very very common Portuguese way of doing things, which leads to a lot of property degradation.
Okay, yes, and here we go. This we see an insight into your personality. You're not afraid to challenge things, and that's why I think you're such an important force in the Portuguese real estate scene, where you're also challenging things. Going back to Bob again, yes, immigrant renewal date. This was the hike of 500 to 750. So yes, it was a renewal date thing, and presumably within the law, the only recourse there might be the amount of increase in that particular contract and whether it was above the lawful allowance for that. What have I missed, Anna? One thing I was going to ask you about was the north of Portugal. So many people falling in love with Ponte Lima. What's going on there?
Oh, it's absolutely beautiful. I actually just spent the weekend in Jerez with my mother. It was her birthday.
Yeah,
And it's gorgeous. It's one of my favorite destinations to go to just relax. Although we didn't relax much, we mostly hiked a lot. But it's absolutely gorgeous, and you just have these beautiful mountain landscapes with the pure air and the virgin forests, and it's
sounds so
it's
good.
just amazing place.
Yeah,
The only downside with this kind of locations is that you really need to have a car because public transportation is a myth,
yeah.
and services can also be a bit limited, and you kind of need to go to the big city for a lot of things.
Yes, okay. So while we're about it then, Pineda Gerês, you approve of Ponte Lima. Can we have a couple more of up and comings that you would? I mean, people are getting frustrated for the reasons you gave earlier on. Impossible. Porto, impossible. Lisboa, impossible. Algarve, impossible. Where else might they look that's absolutely beautiful? That has a lot of the
It
charms of
depends a
Portugal.
lot. If you want to keep a high budget, I would say yes, look at the interior of Portugal
Yeah,
and the north interior and that kind of thing, because prices are much much more accessible, mainly due to the lack of transportation and the
okay.
limited services and amenities available.
Yeah,
If you are willing to drive, this can be great options. You have very much cheaper property, and sometimes you can find really amazing deals. The problem is you really need to be willing to drive. If you want something a bit more balanced, the medium-sized cities can be a great investment because they are going to keep rising, and it's not going to devalue. So I mentioned this a lot. So cities like Aveiro, Coimbra, Tomar, Caldas de Rainha, Castelo Branco, Évora, Braga, all of these cities that are not super inflated yet, but still have a lot of room to grow and are definitely going to keep growing because the big cities become more and more expensive. They can be very interesting options. And the same thing goes to the outskirts of the big cities. So within a I don't know, an hour radius of Porto and Lisbon, those locations are actually not going to devalue either, because as cities grow and get more expensive, people start moving out and things start getting more expensive.
yep. Okay. The reason I put 1 hour 17 on there is because people were writing furiously as you gave that list out. So there's the time. There's the timestamp for the list. Hold on a minute. Anna, what tomorrow? Caldas de Rainha. What else did she say there? So 1 hour 17, because it's a really important thing for people to have those cities to name check. Okay, so to conclude, how to work with you? What are the packages that you offer, and what's the best way for people to get in touch?
Okay, so we work with rental packages. The rental packages can be purchased directly through our website. We have the service tab, and you can just click there on you can choose rentals or purchase. And if you choose rentals, you have the options there. We have three different rental package: the basic, the premium, and the premium plus. The basic is mostly support with it's mostly prepared for people that want to be more hands-on and do their visitations and just get someone to support with location and legal side of things and making sure the neighborhoods are right and the contracts are right and all of that kind of thing. Then we have the premium that is more complete. It already includes visitation. It also includes post-rental support. So we will connect the utilities for you and make sure everything is ready for you to move in.
Yep.
And you know, sometimes help with situations like, you know, getting some kind of appliance that is missing and that kind of thing. And then we have the premium plus that does everything the premium does, plus support with the visa process. So those
Fantastic.
are the three packages we have. Then on the purchase packages, we also have three packages. We have the decided package that is designed for people that are already pretty set on a location. This location, it's mainly an area because the limitation is basically that you only will be working with one agent, and my agents still cover a fairly broad area, so it's not like it's going to be a very narrow limitation. Then we have the Wanderer that already allows to work with more than one agent and explore different locations. People that go with the Wanderer pack, sometimes they go and cover the whole country. I had a client that pretty much met all my agents because she was mostly for investment and she kind of wanted Lisbon, but Lisbon was too expensive, so she looked at other options. And she ended up buying in Lisbon anyway, but she explored kind of all the other options too. And the Wanderer package allows for that and allows for clients to work with multiple agents. And that's one of the big differences on the way I work, is that agents are not working against each other. Everyone in my team collaborates between themselves to help the client the best we can. This package is very much decided for people, designed for people that don't really know where they want to go and want to explore a bit of the country. All of our packages include resident tours, and this is to show locations within the area that we think are suitable for the lifestyle and budget of the client. It's very much a tailored thing. It's a whole day tour where the person has the agent for themselves and explore these different locations to make a comparison. And it's usually very, very helpful because when you are actually there and you talk to someone that lives there and knows the location, you end up realizing whether or not it's where you want to live.
Yeah, very true. Very true. You get the cook's tour, I suppose that's referred to, isn't it? And you get the view from someone who actually lives there, who can show you sides of it that you wouldn't see from Google Maps or just from sales brochures, right?
Yeah. And then the last package is the investor package. There is tailored more towards bigger interventions in doing renovations of buildings and building things and more of a long-term relationship.
Superb. How's that going? I mean, the interest in Portugal, obviously, in investment grows. The golden visa option is a good one. The world are looking at Portugal for investment?
Yes, definitely. And it can be very good investment. My investor clients have been quite happy with their purchases. And you definitely can find deals. Actually, most of the deals that I end up finding for investors are off market between my networks, and that can be very interesting.
Okay. There was just a little adjunct here with SD. Obrigado, Colonana. The agent referred to it as a habitation license. She said the house.
Oh, the habitation license shouldn't cost 10 to 15K.
And they shouldn't have to pay for it either, should they? Or it should be reflected in the purchase.
That's actually very concerning, because if it doesn't have an habitation license, it can be an area where it's actually not possible to have an habitation, because here in Portugal, you have the urban and the rural areas, and sometimes you have mixed plots.
Yeah.
So when it's an urban plot, you can build on it, although there is limitations on how much you can build on it. When it's a rural plot, you cannot build on it. And sometimes people build on rural plots and do kind of skewy things like pushing the light and the water and that kind of thing. but it's illegal and it cannot be legalized. So if it cannot be legalized, it doesn't matter how much you spend, it's not going to be legalized. So you have to be careful with that.
It sounds like a barge pole job. It sounds like, well, I'm sorry that you've fallen in love with it by the sound of it, SD, but you might want to look elsewhere. Anna, you've been amazing. Did you say skewy? Watch out for the skewy on properties with the water.
No, I said that with that situations with no habitation license, especially when it's rural, people can have done skewy things.
Yes, I love that. I love that.
The water and the light and that kind of thing.
Yes, watch out for the skewy, folks, when you're out there looking at property. Anna, it's been lovely to talk to you. Always is. A lot of fun, very informative, and we really like what you're doing to the scene, to the real estate scene. Anything else you'd like to say before we say obrigado and ciao ciao and até a próxima, hasta luego, etc.?
It's all good. I think we're going to see each other monthly. I actually don't know where you're living right now because you're like me and you're also up and down.
So true. Silver Coast, San Martinho de Porto. So I'll be delighted to meet with you.
That's lovely. Actually, I probably will stop by in the weekend. Then I'll have to go to Lisbon. So
okay, all right. Maybe see you. Maybe see you. It's so good. And yes, as you say, monthly residency now. So we'll see you next month.
Yeah, see you next month.
All
and
right,
very lovely to talk to you.
Yeah, okay. Love to Porto. And yes, if you're still nursing that hangover, I guess stay hydrated.
I know I'm good now. I kind of had to do an instant cure because I was going to Regileiro with my mother and driving. So,
oh, of course, you had all that lovely, clean pine air up there, forest.
Yeah, I recovered.
All right. Ciao, ciao. Love to the team and the family. Bye-bye.
Bye.
There you go. There goes Anna Caramujo of Savvycat Realty, and the link to all the services that she describes there, savvycatrealty.com, and we'll see her again next month. Excellent. So in these last few minutes, we've got to return to that dad joke, have we not? Let me just change the banners here. And of course, you can become a member of the community, expatsportugal.com. Membership is free at the basic level, and you can join our very helpful forum. And of course, just like Anna, we have premium and premium plus as well, levels of help, helping you move to Portugal and to come and love your life here in Portugal. And so you can say for yourself, as you open the windows on the jacaranda trees or the sea or this beautiful Portuguese sunshine, good morning, Portugal. You can say that for yourself when you come here, and we'd be delighted to help you in that process at expatsportugal.com. So dad joke warning, seems only fair to do this, and we'll find that dad joke. Where did it go?
Warning.
Oh no! Yes, oh no. Dad joke warning. I was wondering why music was coming out of my printer. Apparently the paper was jamming. Oh, okay. Thank you very much for that. If anyone would care to top that with their own favorite dad joke or jokes, please do. Anna, you've been amazing, says Joao F. I wish I could speak English as fluently as you. I think you do, Joao. Lisboa is still better. And I love that term too, skewy. Thanks, Anna, for that. And from Bob, obrigado, Carl and Anna. Great discussion and information. I have to say, it is when Anna and I talk. And Joao from Andrew as well. Joao F has to go, folks. Have to go now. Thank you so much for the useful information and insight about the purchase rental situation. I want to have a quick look. We were looking, or I was looking at the papers earlier on. It's always fun to look at their front pages. And also our What's On guide. Let's see what's coming up. Thank you so much to Andy for his hard work, as I've mentioned before. Andrew, did you play the video I said? It was out of the rain in England. No, I'm not going to play that. That's such a downer, unless it was something else that you sent me there. Let me see. What can I share with you? The events. That's what I was going to share with you. And then we'll have a look at some of the more amusing and intriguing stories in the Portuguese or the English-speaking Portuguese. Well, they're news. I call them newspapers. I guess they're websites. Portugal News, I think, does go to print as well, doesn't it? Once a week. But the events, well, not but, it's an and. It's not a but, it's an and. The What's On in Portugal. We can also see what we've missed here. Look, going back a little bit to the 15th, all the lovely things that have been going on. Look at that. Incredible. All this lovely work that Andy has been doing for us. And let's bring it up to date. Where are we? 28th already, aren't we? My goodness. Nearly July and nearly time for me to drink beer again. Okay. We're into, we missed the Barroco in Festa. But looking forward then to July, 2nd of July, Saturday. Oh, yes, go to Agada. If you've not been to Agada, the famous place for umbrellas. You know, the colourful umbrellas you can just see in the poster there. If I click on that, is that a bigger view? There you go. No, they're not. That's what the umbrellas look like, but those are actually balloons in the brolly colours there. I don't like the look of that water bottle. That's a strange coloured liquid in there, but that's Agita Agada. For the big festa that's happening at Agada, by the sound of it. Great place to go in centralish Portugal, the Bairrada region. And after going to Agada, where are we? You might want to go to, Expo Bairrada. Obviously, Andy's posting as well. Great big expo there in Oliveira do Bairro, where you can, if you go to that, you can just down the road, you can go to the Underground Museum, which is incredible. Who's that? It's Aliança Underground Museum, the most incredible collection of treasures in the most unassuming of towns, which will be, what's it called? Sangalo de something or other. Sangallo. You'll find it if you search Sangallo on the Underground Museum. Sunday, the 10th of July, sees the beach casting fishing competition and Leitão lunch. Nice combo. Surf and turf there. Festival of the Canals on Thursday, the 14th. That'll be at Aveiro, won't it? Aveiro City in the Aveiro district. Expo Fakik. I'm going to go with fussy because that didn't sound right what I said just after that. July the 28th to August the 7th. Looking forward to Expo Fakik in Cantanhede. The Vagos Metal Fest on the 28th of July through to the July the 30th. And Festas de Bordeaux. Bordeaux's Festival à Tradition to keep. With a remote origin, the traditional Bordeaux festivities are exhausted in time. I wonder what that means. There's only one way of finding out. Thursday, the 28th of July. The Goish Motorbike Show in August. Put that in your diary if you're into that sort of thing. Nature Trail, Oliveira do Bairro, a 10K walk and a 15 or 25K run. What a lovely place to do it along the boardwalks of the Oliveira do Bairro Nature Trail. And of course, the blessing of the helmets that many of us are looking forward to on Sunday, the 18th of September. There you go. Those are the events as posted by Andy and maybe some other people as well. Cheers, Andy. Really appreciate you doing that. I'm going to have a look at the Portugal news front page in these closing minutes. Thankfully, that missing American couple that may have come to your attention, they have been located. I believe all is well there. And let's have a look then at this front page. So that you can see what I'm looking at. Over 250 youth linked to Lisbon gangs identified. So the police doing a great job in Lisbon. Portugal aiming to postpone the ending of sale of combustion cars. We knew that would happen, didn't we? 2/3 of Portuguese have cut food purchases. That's not good news, is it? As a cost of living crisis bites. It's on your screen for you now. Sorry, it took me a little while to do that. CEF resumes automatic residence permit renewal. Some good news there. And risk of falling house prices, as we reported on earlier. Porto Airport distinguished as best European airport. Lisbon Airport got a bit of a panning recently, didn't it? Porto Airport distinguished as best European airport. How about that? That might be an alternative. Fly into Porto next time you're coming into the country, or fly out of it. Largest artificial beach in Europe coming to Iberia. Why? Why is my question. Drought situation significantly worse. Thank you for your comments on that earlier on. And then finally, I saw some other interesting little headlines here. I know I will take you to the Portugal Resident. Let's balance things up with a little bit of a look at the Portugal Resident as well. See what's on their front page, because I think there were some very intriguing headlines over there. That's the whole point of the homepage, isn't it? Intriguing headlines when you're a newspaper outlet. Let's see what they're saying over there on the Resident then, which is comings and goings. Monkeypox now detected throughout Portugal. Steady. We've already covered that, haven't we? I think to our satisfaction there. And Portugal's drought. Minister delivers a warning shot to golf courses. Possibly the wrong... Well, I guess everyone's got to do their bit. But as you've all pointed out, or many of you have pointed out earlier on, it's not so much, or not necessarily the golf courses. It's a lot to do with food production, is it not? Okay, I'm not going to read that. That is grisly over there on the Portugal Resident. I'm going to leave that as in your mind, one of those headlines. Golf, not the elephant in the room then. An angry-looking golfer or golf course owner, possibly, when it comes to water consumption. Pushing back against the government official there who was blaming golf courses. And this is this is the one I saw earlier on. €500 reward for 32 stolen piglets of elevated genetic value. Now, do we take from that this is spider pig and they have already been genetically modified, and that's a very mean amount of money, 500 euros for 32 stolen piglets of elevated genetic value? Or does elevated genetic value mean they're collector's items when it comes to the pig world? I suspect the former, and I'm going to watch that closely. Thank you very much for being here today. Thank you to Anna. Great to talk to Anna. We have a legend with us tomorrow. It is Ask Anything About Portugal. We've got 5 Wednesdays in this month, and I think we had 5 Thursdays as well. It's a strange one. Yes, golf, a good walk spoilt by a silly sport. According to some, golf, a cow pasture pool. Thank you very much for that, T-Duck. And Carl, please post a link to that calendar. Oh, okay, I'll do that for you now, so you can have a look at what's going on. You too, possibly intrigued by the blessing of the helmets in September there, T-Duck. What was I saying? Yes, thank you to Anna. Yes, and tomorrow, Terence joins us. Now, we have an unexpected Wednesday in the bagging area where we can do an additional complimentary Ask Anything About Portugal with a legend who is Renaissance man, artist, commentator, blogger, an all-round good egg and funny guy. The brother of the great Garvo Austin, Terence Austin, will be joining us tomorrow morning to talk about his experience in Portugal. And it's considerable and a little bit of artistic insight as well. He makes videos on expressing yourself artistically. He is a professional painter, and he has many great things to say on the subject. He also helped us when we did our special on taking property photographs. Great guy to speak to. We will talk to him tomorrow. Cirque du Soleil apparently will be in Lisbon in December. Never seen that. That's a good opportunity to go see Cirque du Soleil, maybe for the first time. And did you know that Friday is Dia de Piada? Of course I didn't. Sorry, Pam. What is Dia de Piada? Can we find out before Friday, please? And I'm working for the day. I can speak Portuguese as well as our Portuguese friends speak English. Oh, I'm working for the day. I thought you'd already reached that. That's what you were saying there, James. That's no disrespect to you, but that might be a little way off, right? And that's an aspiration we could all have. And don't be golfist, Andrew. No, don't. Okay, folks, thank you so much for being here. Join me in the morning with Terence, and I wish you a very great day. Ciao, ciao. Te logo. Até próxima. Te já. Where's that outro video? Oh, here it is. Get rid of the whistle. You know how to whistle, don't you? Just put your lips together and...